right, good morning, good morning. Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center, New Surgery Center and Clinic, Lakeland Drive, Flowood, the leader in sports medicine. Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center, also powered by the Madison Healthplex Performance Center, the premier fitness facility in the state of Mississippi. We want to go to the Coors Light guest line. Welcome in Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff for Hail State head coach Mike Leach. And Dave is with us on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Dave, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. How are y'all?
Hey, man, we're doing well. Thanks for taking some time. So how long have you worked for Leach, Dave?
Oh, longer than I care to admit. I know all of his jokes and all of his stories, so quite a long time. I worked for him for 15 years, and then there was 2 years at Kentucky I worked with him. So we go all the way back to 1997. I was a student working in the recruiting office at Kentucky, and he was the offensive coordinator. So a long time.
That is incredible. I can't imagine how many. So describe what it's like both managing but working with Leach's schedule, because it's unorthodox compared to the normal college football coach, Dave.
Oh, absolutely. And he's got so many people that call him that want him to speak. And it's not just football events. It's just events in general, just because he is such an interesting person. And it's hard. The demand's obviously very high, especially, him being new at Mississippi State. So, and he's not the type of person that likes to say no. So unfortunately, I get that job of saying no sometimes, just when the schedule doesn't allow it. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you think it would be. It's all over the place. The demands or the requests are coming in from just about every which way. And it's some neat things. He spoke at MIT, the analytics conference. He was the speaker for graduation at Pepperdine Law School a couple of years ago. It's just a very, very diverse group that he'll get in front of.
Do you have to kind of coach him a little bit during those times? Like, hey, coach, you can't go on for an hour and 20 minutes. You may have to cap this to 20, 25, 30 minutes, whether it's a commencement speech or a speech for a corporation?
Oh, he's gonna do his thing. So I can tell him that, but I'm sure just from him being on the radio with you guys, when he has something to say, he's going to say it.
Right. Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach, both at Mississippi State and Washington State. Now, did you carry that title at Texas Tech too, Dave?
I did. Yeah, I sure did.
Wow. Okay. Where were you when Mike Leach called you and said, I'm taking the Mississippi State job?
Well, I mean, we had talked about it, so it wasn't like a big shocking surprise to me or anything. I help a lot with hiring and retaining staff, so I think that was probably his first priority was to make sure that I was on board with it, which I 100% was, and then getting to work putting together our staff. This one was a little easier than the one at Washington State when we got hired there, just because we could bring so many people with us. We had so much success at Washington State, we wanted to take those guys with us. So, probably 2/3 of our staff came down with us, and then we got to work putting the pieces together on the rest of our staff.
Okay. As someone who's been along for this, this ride since Kentucky and Tim Couch and so on, for a long time, people thought Mummy Leach and others, like what they did was gimmicky. Now it's everybody wants a piece of it, Dave. So, I mean, you see it in the NFL through Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes, among others. What they did at the collegiate level, that quarterback is now Gardner Minshew, who's from here, as you know. So what has that been like to be there almost, Iowa Westland Valdosta, but you've been there pretty much the whole time. What's it been like to see it go from, that can kind of work here and there to, ooh, inject that in my veins. I want some of that. We feel like we can build a big program off of that. Or now you see it in the NFL on Sundays.
Yeah, it's crazy how far it's come. When Coach Leach got to Texas Tech, Texas high schools for the most part were running the ball and playing defense, and that's how Texas high school football games were played. And all the success he had at Texas Tech, and you look at it now, just with 7-on-7s taking off, and most of the schools in Texas are throwing the football now. So it all started at the high school level, really. Just kids wanted to catch the ball, wanted to play in fun offenses, and it really took off. And then it kind of spread throughout college. Obviously, Dana Holgerson, Sonny Dykes, Lincoln Riley, Neil Brown, a lot of air raid guys have had a ton of success in college, and now it's heading to the NFL. So it's been a neat deal to watch, a neat transition, and knowing it all kind of started with Coach Leach and Coach Mummy and those guys, and really has gotten to where it is today. It's pretty cool to watch and be a part of.
Yeah. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're visiting with Dave Emerick. He's with Hail State Football, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach. And you're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Of course, Dave is on the Coors Light guest line. Okay, so what he's
does that come with any Coors Light, or
absolutely. Well, we have plenty of it here in studio. So if you ever stop in when you're in the Jackson metro area, you're welcome to have a cold Coors Light with us.
All right, sounds good.
What? Okay, so with Leach starting his day later than most, how does Dave Emerick? I know it's like this is all you know now, but kind of walk our listeners through what that is like. And do you take phone calls from him at 10, 11 at night, or is it kind of understood, here's where we are, and walk us through what it's like managing him, working with him, and so on?
Well, we've almost gotten to where we kind of work in shifts. So I take the early shift and he takes the late shift. Okay. Yeah, I get to the office, 7:30, and it's to where, he's so busy being the head coach, offense coordinator, quarterbacks coach, that I'm able to handle a lot of the administrative stuff. I know exactly what he wants. I can go into meetings and represent him and know what he'll want answered, what he'll want done. So it works well in that regard. But when I first became the chief of staff at Texas Tech, it was real hard. I was young, and I always felt compelled to answer his phone calls no matter when he called. So he would call at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I would answer, and then I'd be up at 7 o'clock, going to work the next day. And as you can imagine, that doesn't last very long. It takes a toll on you pretty quick. So no, I'm not the late night guy that he is. I'm more of a early guy. But if he'll call at 10 o'clock, if I'm awake, I'll answer it. And then it's kind of funny. He'll text me sometimes at midnight or 1 in the morning, and I won't see it till I get up at 6 in the morning. I'll text him back at 6 o'clock in the morning, knowing he won't see it till he gets up at 11 or 12. So it's a fun game we play, but it works pretty well.
Somebody texted me, Dave, and this was all in good fun, but someone texted and said, hey, Dave Emerick and the staff are going to have to figure out how to manage Mike if y'all have an 11 a.m. kickoff this fall.
Yeah, we've had him before. We didn't have many at Washington State, but we had him at Texas Tech. But no, he's capable of getting out of bed and having a few cups of coffee and get rolling. But yeah, I'm sure you know it by now. He's a late night guy, and that's just kind of how he's wired. He'll get to work later, but he'll work all night if he needs to, and then he likes to go home and kind of relax. He DVRs, tons of shows that he likes to watch until he falls asleep. So, anything that's interesting to him on the History Network or National Geographic or wherever it may be, he'll DVR those throughout the day, and then he'll watch them late at night until he gets tired.
Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Our guest is Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach, has been with him since Kentucky. and chief of staff at Texas Tech and Washington State, and now at Mississippi State. Now, look, I know you're a Leach guy, but I get the sense there were some other coaches that were with him when he joined us in studio a couple of months ago. But I do get the sense that people genuinely like working for him.
Yeah, he's a guy that as long as you're doing your job and you're doing it well, he's going to leave you alone. He's not going to micromanage. He's not going to get involved in stuff. He trusts his people. He trusts good people that he hires, and he takes care of them. So, yeah, I mean, it's a situation where, sometimes at Washington State it was hard to retain coaches just because they resources, and they would move on to bigger and better things. One year we had, after we were 11-2 and number 10 in the country, I think we had 6 or 7 coaches move on, but that was just because, of the success and bigger opportunities, whether it be coordinator opportunities or stuff like that. But yeah, he's a guy that's great to work for. He lets you do your job. And obviously there's no 2 days that are the same. I mean, it's just every day is an adventure with Mike Leach, and you never really know what you're going to get. One time we had just beaten USC at Washington State, and we were in a staff meeting. I believe it was that Sunday, getting the game behind us and moving on to our next opponent. And Coach Leach answers the phone right in the middle of the staff meeting, which he never does. And he steps out and he starts talking, in my office, which was right next door. He closes the door and he leaves the staff meeting for about 10 minutes. And he comes back and he has the phone on speakerphone. And we're all like, well, what is going on? What is he doing? We're right in the middle of a staff meeting. And, think of him what you will, right, wrong, or whatever. President Trump's on the line. He said, "Congratulations, guys, on a great win over USC. We're proud of you, and we're watching you." So, it's pretty unique when you have the President of the United States, congratulating you on a victory that you had the night before. So,
absolutely,
you never really know what you're going to get.
That's incredible. Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff on the Coors Light guest line, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach, Hail State head coach. So you guys have been able to do this in really, really, really remote areas, Lubbock and Pullman, Washington. I mean, Gardner Minshew's dad listens to this show some, and Flint will text me. And so when we were going over this thing when y'all got hired, we started, bouncing around. Hey, he won in Lubbock, he won in Pullman. Well, Flint said, Flint's one of his first texts were, "Dude, you understand? I mean, this place is way, 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 way out in the middle of nowhere." How excited have y'all had? How many conversations have y'all had based around, Dave, the fact that now you're in a location where you can go down to Starkville High School, you can go down to Noxubee, you can go down to Meridian, Jackson's an hour and 45 minutes away, Tupelo's 50 minutes away, that you have prospects that can drive 20 minutes, an hour and a half, literally dozens of them. And that's a different deal than what y'all experienced in Lubbock and Pullman, Dave.
Yeah. That was one of the main attractions for us to take the job, just having prospects in such a close area. And it was both Texas Tech and Washington State. And, you'd have some spring practices where, I guess the majority of spring practices, you would not have recruits there. Just they couldn't get there, especially during the week. And we were really looking forward to these spring practices, having, recruits there at every single practice, showing off what we can do for them and what we have. So, I mean, all the kids in the state of Mississippi is obviously you could sign a great recruiting class on that alone. But then you look at the surrounding areas as well. I mean, Atlanta and New Orleans and Nashville and Memphis, and there's so many big cities that are obviously within striking distance of Starkville that's really, really exciting for us.
Has it been odd the last 2 weeks not revving up and gearing up for recruiting for the first time for you, I would think, in forever, because this is such a big time of year where y'all are planning camps and you're planning, like you said, I think, and maybe we don't know. I'm speculating that the NCAA and the SEC is going to allow y'all to have some kind of spring practice in June or July so that all these schools can take advantage of that. But has it been bizarre and surreal the last 2 weeks, not full speed ahead in recruiting and so on?
Oh, absolutely. It's been different. I think all of us coaches are probably wearing out our wives and our kids, and they're ready for us to leave the house. I actually have a little deal that my wife truly enjoys. I started out with kind of my quarantine beard, and then it went to kind of a quarantine goatee, which she tolerated, and then it went to kind of a quarantine handlebar mustache, which she absolutely disgusted her, and now it's at a quarantine kind of 1980s mustache. So that really, this phase really grosses her out, but it's something we're going to have to get through together, and it will make us stronger because of it.
Sure.
But absolutely, the recruiting is, you do all you can. You can text recruits, you can get them on social media, you can have them call you, you can write them letters, you can evaluate their film, but it's obviously quite a bit different than getting them to campus and showing off all that we have to offer them here at Mississippi State.
Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach on the Coors Light guest line. Now, Dave, are you allowed to talk about the Stanford transfer, QB?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Don't want to get anybody in trouble. I can't. There's so many rules and regs this day and age. All right. KJ Costello. I got to visit with, who did I visit with, Blake? Who was the inside wide receivers coach?
Dave Nickel.
Yeah. All right. So Dave was with Coach Leach. This was a big, it may be your biggest recruit. Who knows? But this was a big recruit, and you're a big part of recruiting. Can you walk us through the KJ Costello to Mississippi State? Because MSU fans are all fired up about that.
We had played against him a bunch at Washington State when he was at Stanford, and he was a big-time guy coming out of high school. And we recruited and we signed a bunch of his teammates at Washington State who played for us and really had great careers for us. So we were recruiting him at Washington State as soon as he went into the portal. So we really set the foundation there. Coach Nickel did a great job. Coach Leach obviously had a huge role in talking to him and getting him. And then when we came to Mississippi State and just the way the roster kind of set up, the way their offense was, we needed a guy. First of all, there weren't any senior quarterbacks. So we needed a guy coming here with some leadership and who had thrown the ball a bunch in the past. And, obviously KJ really stood out to us. And KJ is a very thorough, he's a very, thinks things through. So he was very cautious because he was excited about Washington State. And all that we sold him and told him about Washington State, and had to really, go through the roster, Mississippi State, see what we had, talk about, grad school, stuff like that. But once he came on his visit and realized, the things that Mississippi State can do for him, playing in the SEC, being a part of our offense, he jumped on board pretty quickly and wanted to be a part of it. So he'll be obviously a fun guy to watch in this offense. Last year was hurt a little bit at Stanford, but 2 years ago had a huge year. But he'll be a guy that can come in, and he's a sharp kid. Obviously, Stanford. I think he's got like a 3.7 at Stanford, so he'll be able to come in and hit the ground running.
Okay, Gardner Minshew. What was it like to see him come in and y'all land him at Washington State, and for him to make pretty much, I guess, a seamless transition and sync up with everything y'all are doing and having a record-setting year and go on to the NFL, Dave?
Oh, it was pretty incredible. Gardner didn't get the opportunity to go through spring ball at all. So he came in May and, went through some summer workouts and started camp. And when he started camp, he just wasn't anointed the starting quarterback, And the really, really unique thing about him was he had no ego about it. He just wanted to win the locker room first. He wanted to show his teammates that he was a great leader, great person. And that was the biggest thing, is they wanted to play so hard for him just because of the passion and the energy that he showed. So he came into camp. He was probably the number 2, number 3 guy just because we had no idea what he would be able to do, not seeing him in the spring. And he quickly won that starting job. And, he beat out Anthony Gordon, who obviously had a great year last year. So his deal was very unique. Coming in, he didn't think he was a starting quarterback. He didn't have, an arrogance to him in that regard. He wanted to prove that he was, and then win everyone over first. And obviously a special season and going on doing great things in the NFL.
What was your Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach, Mississippi State football? He joins us on the Coors Light guest line. We got a couple more minutes here What was your initial reaction once you got on campus and got to see the facilities, Dave?
Yeah, was very impressed. I was excited, especially some of the things they've done in the stadium's pretty cool, pretty unique. There's a recruiting room, there's a club level that's just kind of state of the art stuff. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that's, I guess, is unique and different from places we've been is just so much space. The practice fields, the grass is just pristine. You have these huge practice fields. The weight room just goes right out to the practice fields. It's a state of the art weight room. So obviously their facilities are not going to be an issue in recruiting people. They're going to help us and yeah, I mean, top notch. Very excited about what we have here.
Dave Emerick on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Well, Dave, we really appreciate your time today. Look forward to working with you and your crew, and we'll catch up again soon, man.
All right, appreciate it. You guys just kind of make up sports stories, or what's going on these days?
Yeah, well, we're doing this. I mean, we're really storytelling. I mean, we're bringing on people to well, we kind of do this anyway, but yeah, we're booking people to for storytelling. That's why I called you on Friday, and you were a perfect guest.
Well, good. I'm sure the ratings shot up the roof, and I'm glad that I was able to be a small part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dave. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
Dave Emerick, Chief of Staff for Mike Leach. Can you imagine? I mean, and I didn't realize he had been with him since Kentucky.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And then Chief of Staff, Texas Tech, Washington State, and now MSU. And they've got it figured out. I mean, here's the schedule. Here's what Mike likes. Here's what I do well. Here's what I know he wants.
It's well oiled.
It is. And I'd forgotten that Mike had, that all the speeches that he does, the MIT Sports
he's
Leadership
probably the
Analytics
most
Conference,
requested speaker in college football, like coaching wise. I can't imagine someone has more.
I mean, he's probably up there with Saban and Dabo, even though they're.
Yeah, but I would even think that there's probably more like outside sports requests for Mike Leach than maybe even Saban and Dabo, because he's so known as that like broad, worldly, knowledgeable guy. I mean, so many commencement speeches, business speeches. What college football coach is talking at MIT?
Pepperdine Law School commencement speech.
I mean,
that's fun.
Top 1% level schools.
Sure.
That's remarkable.
It's great. President Trump called during a meeting on Sunday after they beat Southern Cal. Live in the Bank Plus studio, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by the spray and bed liners and lift kits at RPT and Rick's Pro Truck. Right there in Gluckstadt, Madison County, their new location. Of course, they've got Lakeland Drive, Flowood, RPT, ricksprotruck.com. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. We're going to have another cool guest at 9:30 today. Former Ole Miss football player under Billy Brewer. He's got a cool story, and then someone in his family has a cool story too. And we'll tell you who that's going to be coming up next. We're live in the Bank Plus studio.